Well, no, let's look at October now, my October, real quickly, because there's a couple of things in here that you can learn about the wrestling business, what I'm going to say. Again, on October 1st, 1983, we're 6 weeks from Bill Watts coming to Memphis and look at the talent and me finding out that I'm going to get a new job. And I am the cohort of Jimmy Hart in the First Family. Lawler's just decided every heel is managed by Jimmy Hart. They're all in the First Family, but Hart can't be in two towns at the same time. So Jimmy Cornette is going to be his assistant First Family manager, and I'm going to go to all the tank towns and do that.
Jimmy Hart will manage all the other heels, including the other heel manager.
Yes, I was in the group of the other heel manager, but we were all part of the First Family. And that's, like I said, Dundee had used just to be different. He knew Lawler was going to be the one to finally beat Jimmy Hart up, but he could be the one to beat me up. So anyway, but on October 1st, I was in Ripley, Tennessee, which was 350 miles round trip from Nashville. I spent $27 on gas and $4 on food, because you know what the price of a Wendy's triple combo was in October 1983?
No, how much?
$4.
Really? In 1983?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
And it may have been some sense involved in that. But again, it's a spot show because they're running two towns almost every night because of all the people. They can't put 40 guys on the card in Louisville, right? Jarrett would have had a conniption fit. So I managed the Russian Invader, who was Jerry Novak, formerly of the Bounty Hunters. I believe I mentioned he was from Lithuania or wherever. He could speak Russian, but he wasn't Russian. But under the mask, he was Russian. And he beat the Jaguar, who was Danny Davis. And then I managed the Prince of Darkness and Lucifer, who were Duke Myers and Frank Morrell under Lawler's horror movie mask, against the Rock and Roll Express, who won. Then me and Jimmy Hart, because Ripley was close to Memphis for the Saturday night, me and Jimmy Hart got beat by Terry Taylor in a handicap match, and then I was eliminated in the Battle Royal. So it was a light night. I only worked 4 matches and got $100. And we started this discussion when we talked about September, but to me, this was, it was excruciating at the time, because I'm like, oh shit, I got to rush and go out there, and I've come back and I'm blowed up and I got to go out again. And the boys loved to fuck with me. They saw me looking like I had a bucket of water turned over my head. Hurry, Jim, hurry, they're about to ring the bell. But I realize now it was so much practice. It was so much experience. And not only that, but if I was fucking up, I don't care if I was cheap or not, they wouldn't have had me going out 7 times a night, right? If I was fucking anything up. And I can look back at that now, having run shows and been responsible for, yeah, I like his shit. Send him out there, have him do some more shit. It was easier for the guys because we're on these small shows, small crowds for the most part. They don't want to work hard and take bumps. But now it's not like having Jim Cornette at that point in time for a manager meant they got extra heat because I was a big managing star. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to make it if Cornette goes out with me. It was like, if I've got this fucking guy, this manager, he's on TV, they know who he is, he's annoying, but he knows if I'm a pretty boy heel, Cornette knows how to help me fold my robe and brush my hair and milk the people how good looking I am. If I'm a monster heel, Cornette knows I need to be held back and put over and made afraid, people afraid of me. The babyface knew that I knew all the spots that were going to come up. That if I see Bill Dundee grab a headlock and get shot off near my ropes and he hits the far ropes and there's another drop down, he's going to dive out and chase me. When he does, I'm already halfway around the ring post so I can roll in, have a double knockout with the goddamn heel. I knew the spots. I knew wrestling. I could hand the gimmicks in. I could use it, whether it was a real foreign object that the heel was milking to get heat or whether it was a donut hole that didn't even exist. I could do that. I knew if the heel rolled out and hugged me in a conference that the baby face was going to reach out and run our heads together and all the kids in the crowd were going to fucking cheer. I could take the bumps and leave myself open to shit. So that's why the guys wanted me to go out on these small shows. If I'm out there being made a fool of, the heel manager, they got to take fewer bumps. So I learned to work all the spots with all these guys to stretch and stall for time and reduce the punishment on everybody's body except for mine. But it was experience. So then Sunday, October 2nd was a day off because most of the time we were off on Sunday unless we were in Jackson, Tennessee, which I was not. On Monday, October 3rd, I will have you know that while most of the people were down in Memphis, Tennessee, enjoying the big show of the week, I was in Mount Washington, Kentucky, which is literally down the road from Louisville, but I lived in Nashville, on a $1,700 house. And I got paid $50. Now, bear in mind, I got $100 for Ripley because that was a halfway decent house. But $1,700, even tripled. That meant it was a $5,100 house. In today's money, $50. For that, I managed Alpha the Galaxian in a losing effort against Tom Pritchard. I managed Carl Fergie in a losing effort against Tommy Rogers. I managed Lucifer and the Prince of Darkness in a losing effort against Bobby Fulton and Terry Taylor. I managed Buddy Landell in a losing effort over Bill Dundee. And I got eliminated in the Battle Royal. 5 matches that night. The next night in Waynesboro, Tennessee, in front of a $2,200 house, I got another $50. Same thing. Rock and Roll beat the Prince of Darkness and Lucifer. Dundee beat the Russian. Dutch Mantell and Coco beat the Bruise Brothers. And then Dundee came back and worked twice and beat Buddy Landell. And I got eliminated in a Battle Royal.
The figures you're using, what are the sources of, what's the source of these financial figures? And were you already asking these questions back then or writing them down?
Yes, because that was the big question. I've said this before, the guys, whenever you worked a show, when you came in, you asked the promoter, whoever the local promoter was, whoever was checking up at the box office, whoever was responsible, what's the advance look like? And either, oh, it's good, or oh, it's up from last time, or oh, it's not too good, or oh, frankly, it's the shits, Jim, or whatever you got. But then at the end of the night, and this was something that I saw the top guys doing, and I picked up on it. Only I carried it as I usually do to the extremes. You know, when guys were on a big house in Memphis or Louisville did like 5,000 people. Hey, what was the house? 27 grand or what? Oh, great. Well, I started asking. And to be honest, even Buddy Wayne, who a lot of these $2,200 houses were Buddy Wayne towns, or Eddie Marlin, or whoever the promoter was. I asked Teeny in Louisville and Evansville. And we'd ask Guy Coffey in Memphis because he was the one checking up. But I started recording Good, Bad, and Indifferent because I wanted to know. I wanted to know what the house was and what I got paid. And the next time we ever came back there, is it up or down and what was different? So I started recording these things. And honestly, in some cases, some of these spot shows, whoever was running them didn't really want to admit it, but I think they admired my fucking interest in the business end of the business. And so they were legitimate figures. You never asked how many people were here. You asked, what was the house? That's how you got paid. What was the money? If 5 people bought 5 $500 tickets, that was the same thing as 500 people buying 5 $505 tickets. It didn't matter. But anyway, on October 5th, I was supposed to be in Forest City, Arkansas. But I was off because I couldn't afford to make the fucking drive by myself, and everybody else was down there. And I was off on Thursday the 6th as well. But back in action on Friday, October 7th in Blytheville, Arkansas at the American Legion Arena, where the house was $2,400 and I got another $50. Coco Ware beat me and Jimmy Hart. The Fabs beat the Assassins, and I got eliminated in a battle royal. And then, of course, we went to Memphis that night because the town the next night was right outside of Memphis. But that's a week I wasn't even on television. They didn't have me go to TV. I just went to my cousin Larry's and slept late. But on the 8th, Saturday night, I was in Obion, Tennessee for an $1,800 house for another $50. Listen to this one. The Russian Invader got to beat Terry Taylor, by God. And then the Rock and Roll Express beat me and Lucifer because Duke was hurt. So they had me wrestle as Frank Morel's tag team partner. So I can say that I've been tombstoned by The Undertaker, figure four'd by Ric Flair, pile driven by Jerry Lawler, and was Frank Morel's tag team partner. And then Dennis Condrey and Norvell Austin beat Coco Ware and Dutch Mantell. Dundee beat Buddy Landell by DQ, and I got eliminated in a battle royal. Now, that week, I made $200 for working 4 days, and that would be $600 today, and it'd still be the shits, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I never even heard of that town before.
Obion, Tennessee?
Obion, where's that?
It's down the road from Webb City. You know where that is, don't you?
No way.
Halfway up a spider's ass. So Sunday, October 9th, I was off. Now, the following week, things were looking up. Listen to this. On Monday, wait a minute. Let me just hold on here. On October 10th, 1983, on a Monday night, was Memphis running? Of course it was. Memphis had Austin Idol versus Stan Hansen in a bunkhouse match. Jerry Lawler versus Jesse Ventura for the Southern title. The Bruise Brothers versus the Rock and Roll Express. Buddy Landell versus Dutch Mantell. Tommy Rogers versus Coco Ware, and more. I was in Scottsville, Kentucky. $1,800 house. The payoff was $55. They took pity. Bobby Eaton beat Carl Fergie. And then Terry Taylor and Bobby Fulton beat Carl Fergie and Lucifer. They sent the Fabs to Scottsville. This may have been the start of some issues with the Fabs and Lawler. Fabs over the Assassins, Dundee over Landell, and me eliminated in a battle royal. And then since I was in Kentucky, I actually got to go to Louisville the next night. And Louisville had an $8,900 house. So all summer, Louisville had been fucking cooking. And now, just like Memphis, it's starting to droop because it'd been hot-shotted and hot-shotted. So I get to go back to Louisville. The house isn't $9,000. At the ticket prices of that time period, that meant there was right around 2,000 people there, which was abysmal at that point in time. But I got $90. Dennis Condrey and Norvell Austin had a no contest with the Rock and Roll Express. Shades of things to possibly come. Dundee beat me and Jimmy Hart in a handicap match, and the Fabulous Ones beat the Assassins. I splurged that day. I spent $7 on food. No hotel because I was home.
What'd you buy? What was the food?
Well, I can't remember. I didn't write specifically.
How
what
would
the
I know that you wouldn't have
purchase
that?
Was.
Seems like the kind of thing you'd keep track of.
Probably went to Kingfish. Anyway, on October 12th, we went to Evansville, Indiana. The house was not recorded. I got $50. I have a feeling it was one of those nights. I didn't want to disturb Christine. Terry Taylor was injured, so me and Jimmy Hart won our handicap match by default because they said, fuck it, this house, we're not even going to do that match. Dundee beat Jesse Ventura by disqualification. That's the first time I managed Jesse Ventura. Because Hart was down at the other end. No, Hart was on the card. Then why didn't he go out with Jesse? I bet, you know what?
It's a great story.
Yeah, a great story, lady. I managed Jesse Ventura. I know that much because I wrote it down. Jimmy Hart, I bet, was doing a deal with Lawler, and since we didn't have the handicap match, he saved him for that. And the Fabs beat the Assassins. And then we were in Bardstown, Kentucky on October 13th, $4,100 house. I got $65. Again, the Russian Invader won. He beat Bobby Fulton. Buddy Landell beat Tom Pritchard by DQ. Coco Ware beat me and Jimmy Hart. Coco Ware and Dutch Mantell beat the Russian and Lucifer. And I got eliminated in the Battle Royal. But it's a great week because now I've already worked 4 times. I got 2 more coming up. Boonville, Mississippi on the 14th and Nashville on the 15th. Go ahead.
Did you enjoy doing Battle Royals?
Oh, fuck no. Because, again, I still didn't really know what I was doing to do anything in the ring. And it got crowded. And generally what I would do on these spot shows, and the boys liked it because they'd get a bigger pop at the end, I would come out for the Battle Royal and slide under the ring where the referee wouldn't see me. And then they'd start the match, and while the Battle Royal was going on, I would crawl to the west side, then to the east side, then the north side, and I would peek out from under the apron skirt and make sure everybody saw that I was there and look like I was scared. And then all the people were screaming, "He's under the ring! He's gonna get that son of a bitch! He's under the ring!" And the referee would be oblivious until the ring cleared out a little bit. And then when there was a babyface and a heel, or a couple of babyface and a couple of heels, I'd come out, get somebody from behind, the heels would take over, and then the babyfaces would make their comeback and either eliminate me and then the real heels, the real wrestlers, or save me for last and dump me for the big pop because they finally got the fucking weasel that was trying to get out of this because he was scared. Nobody told us to do that. Those days, on a spot show, the instruction was, Battle Royal, Brian goes over, give us 10 minutes. You just figured the shit out. So that's what we usually did.
As long as we know who's going over, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, in Boonville, Mississippi, Jerry Lawler went over me and Jimmy Hart. The Fabulous Ones went over the Assassins, and I was out in the Battle Royal. And Lawler and Hart were in Boonville because it's right down the road from fucking Memphis. But we had, earlier in the year, I believe I've mentioned it, we'd done a $10,000 house in Boonville. This is not recorded, but it was a $65 payoff. So I'm pretty sure that it wasn't no 10 grand. And then I wasn't on Memphis TV again, but I was back in Nashville on Saturday night, $5,900 house, $70 payoff. Listen to this match. Dennis Condrey, Norvell Austin, and Buddy Landell, no contest. Ricky and Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton.
Oh, wow.
The Gibson brothers and the Rock and Roll Express in the same match against Dennis Condrey, Buddy Landell, and Norvell Austin. That one was fun. And then Dundee beat me and Hart. That was when I go out there and start cutting a promo about how Jimmy Hart is injured and can't be there that night. And since it's a handicap match and I don't have a partner, well, Dundee, you're just out of luck. We're going to have to call this whole thing off. And then Dundee jerks me in over the top rope and starts beating the shit out of me, saying, fuck you, we're calling it off. And while he's beating me up, Jimmy, with a baseball cap and a jumpsuit and a whole tray of popcorn things, comes out and is trying to sneak up behind Dundee. But as he rolls in the ring, he's still got the tray of popcorns. Dundee turns around and draws back, and he throws the popcorn up in the fucking air, and Dundee nails Jimmy. And Jimmy takes the bump, and the popcorn comes right down on his fucking face. It was hilarious. That was Nashville. And then I was off again. And then, believe it or not, October 17th, we talked about it before, I'm back in Memphis. Oh, and by the way, I made $395 that week for working 6 days. So if you triple that, I actually made $1,200, and I only had to work about 24 matches to do it.
Is your mom asking you at all when she talks to you about how you're doing financially, and you think she's worried at all about what your future will be?
Hey, well, yeah, well, she was like, Jimmy, you're not in Louisville. Well, I had to be down in Obion, Tennessee, Mom. Yeah, no, not making a lot of money here. I'm sure she was worried, but at the same point, it wasn't like if I had gone to Louisiana and called home and said I'm making $300 a week, she'd have been like, get your ass back here. But it was like she knew where I was. I lived in Nashville, but I'm seeing her a couple times a month. And at least it was a friendly atmosphere, but she probably had some second thoughts about how this was going to work out toward the fall of '83. Yes. But on the 17th, that was the night Bobby Eaton lost to me and Jimmy Hart, the money deal. The house was $29,000 and I made $200. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a goddamn great week, right? And I was in Louisville the next night and got $100 for a handicap match with Bobby and managing the Gibson, Morton, Condrey and them 6-man. There's another $100. I'm like, wow, this is great. And then I was supposed to be in Evansville and Columbia, Kentucky, and it scratched out off. I'm pretty sure that's when I got so bad fucking sick I couldn't make Evansville and Columbia. Because I couldn't breathe through 5 matches per night with goddamn bronchitis. So I picked up on Friday the 21st in Pickwick, Tennessee, where the house $2,650. I got $60. I only had to work twice, 1 handicap match. And then in Bowling Green, Kentucky on the 22nd, where the house was $3,800, I got $60. I only had to work 3 times. So Memphis saved me. I made $420 that week, only working 4 times. And we're coming down to the nub of things. Monday the 24th was off, as was Sunday the 23rd. No way they're going to let me go to Memphis. I might make a payoff. I was in Stanford, Kentucky on the 25th for $125. I was in Nashville on a Wednesday night show, which never drew in those days, for $50. And listen to this one. Bobby Fulton in a draw with Alpha the Galaxian, Pritchard over Lucifer, Rogers over Fergie, the Moondogs over Bobby Eaton and the Jaguar, and the Fabs over the Assassins. That was I was literally out there for the entire fucking card. And then in Cave City, Kentucky, same thing, 5 matches for $50 the next night. Same thing, the 28th, 5 matches. No, 1, 2, 3, only 4 matches in Springfield, Tennessee for $50. Then we left Springfield, and I remember this. I rode with Frank Morrell, and God dang it, who else was with us? It was Jerry Novak, because we had to be in Springfield, Tennessee, which is northwest of Nashville, and we left there at, God damn it, 10:30 at night, let's say, and had to go 240 miles to Memphis for Memphis TV. Did that, which was for free, by the way, and then turned around and came all the way back to Nashville, where we were in Nashville on Saturday night, 30 miles away from the show in Springfield we'd done Friday night. So we did a 400-something, 500-mile round trip to go do a free TV taping. And then in Nashville, Bobby Fulton beat Alpha. I managed Pork Chop Cash. He beat Brock Woods. Lucifer was defeated by Bobby Eaton. The Russian Invader drew Dutch Mantell. The Bruise Brothers beat Charles Atlas and James Daniels.
Charles Atlas?
Exactly. A black guy came into the territory, called himself Charles Atlas, and they tried to tell people he was Tony's brother.
Oh, see, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it didn't last long. And Coco Wera over Tommy Rogers by DQ, and Lawler and Dundee over the Moondogs. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches in Nashville. And then I was off on the 30th, and I was back in Memphis on the 31st, that famous Halloween night where not only did the fucking card tank, it only did like 14 grand. I made $75, but I was in the opening 8-man tag. Bobby Eaton, the Jaguar, Bobby Fulton, and James Daniels beat me, Lucifer, the Russian, and Carl Fergie. And that was, again, I got to work with so many different guys. I managed Ken Patera. I managed Jesse Ventura. I was, involved with all of these top guys. They were all giving me all of their various moves and shit. It was like going to wrestling school, I guess. But even 40 years ago, it was hard to live on $250 to $300 a week when you were going somewhere 6 days out of that week, oftentimes, and working 30 to 35 times.
For working that schedule and making that kind of money, was it hard to convince, I guess Watts would have been one, was it hard for Watts to convince Carl Fergie to get out of the ring the next year?
Carl Fergie would have kept that referee job in Mid-South until the end of his life if he'd had a choice, because that's the thing. The first check we got from Bill Watts for doing preliminary matches on the cards when we first started in the territory was the biggest check I'd ever gotten in the wrestling business. For being in prelims, the biggest payoff that I'd gotten to that point was $300 for being in the semifinal match of that Lawler-Dundee loser leave town match in the summer. My biggest week had been, I think, $800. Now, of course, $2,400 in today's money, not bad for a rookie. But then suddenly, for our first check for Watts is almost $1,100 for prelim matches. And then the following 2 weeks, by payoffs, we didn't make $1,000. But Watts had assured us that we would make at least $1,000 a week. So he bonused us so we would. And,
here's a $200 bonus. I like your haircut. Like, what kind of bonus was it?
Well, that's the thing. Watts would bonus guys probably what they should have been paid to begin with. But because it was clearly defined as here's your payoff and here's a bonus, you felt good about it. But if you had a good match, you saw on your check, plus whatever. Or if you did something to distinguish yourself, you got there despite all obstacles of you making the town, or, you made the finish even better, or it was something he wanted to show on TV and it was so good. Whatever in his mind you deserved a little plus, he would plus you. Or just if he was making up a verbal agreement. It's the only, Crockett just gave us payoffs, good payoffs, but he never bonused us or plussed us. Watts would plus you because it was an incentive. You want to see a lot of pluses.
Did you get a bonus, a plus, when you lost your hair?
I did not.
So there was no incentive.
It didn't fucking draw as well as they thought it would, so he didn't feel bonusy. But I did get, I got a bonus, as I recall, when I goddamn came back early from goddamn mono so I could make the show. Whatever. But that's it. You talked about Fergie. The referee checks when we were hot in Mid-South were the equivalent to what the top heel in Memphis was making.
Wow, really?
The opening match guys because we talked to them, because we knew some at Jerry Gray, Pat Rose. The guys in the opening match in Mid-South when we were doing that business were making $800 to $1,000 a week. And that would be, $2,500, $3,000 in today's money to jerk the curtain. So, Carl Fergie was happier being a referee and making $1,000 than being a wrestler in Tennessee making $400 with where the spot he'd have been on the card.
All right.
Well, there you go. But I mean, that's a thing. And again, that was like the opening match guys making $1,000 a week, but that was for a 3-month run and it wasn't every week. And it was, but that was better than they were going to do in other places. And that's why you wanted to be on the card in a hot territory. And Watts was very fiscally conservative too. He built the package shows like Eddie Graham did. 7 big matches, 18 stars, 2 titles on the line. That was That's what I'm saying. 18 guys on a card, 7 big matches, 2 championships at stake. Prices raised for this major event. He wouldn't have 40 guys on a fucking card in a Superdome. Because at some point, if you've got 40 guys on your card, regardless of who they are, good, bad, or indifferent, only 10 or 12 of them were in whatever matches that drew the money. And then you're just paying guys to, indulge their goddamn, enjoyment of being on your card because they didn't contribute anything, not because they didn't work hard or they're not a name, but because they're not in a feature match. You can't be that deep with a wrestling card and everybody means something. So, and then Watts had the thing in 84 that they were never able to do in the Tennessee territory of raising prices indiscriminately depending on the size of the card and the attraction at the top. And I mean, we were in towns in just 1 year in Louisiana that had 4 or 5 sets of ticket prices. The last Stampede, he jacked everything. A place that had $8 ringside for a regular show would be $15 ringside. But they were paying it. So he did all kinds of unusual things that he could get by with in that territory. And he really, because of the geographic area and the fact that he had cobbled it together from the Louisiana territory, McGurk's Oklahoma territory, Paul Bosch's Houston, you could do different things in different towns. You could jack the prices up in the Sam Houston Coliseum for the last Stampede or scaffold match or Ric Flair and Kerry or whatever. And it's Houston, Texas. They'll pay it. But you got to run the same fucking attractions in Jackson, Mississippi for half the price, $8, maybe $10 ringside, because it's fucking Mississippi. But he was able to do that all over the place and gross well over $1 million just in a 5 or 6 week period in that territory, because he played with the ticket prices and he was also fiscally conservative with the number of guys that were on the card. So everybody could make a decent payoff. Because they're splitting the same amount of money up between 20 guys as 40 guys. It's not like the promoter's saying, I got 40 guys, I got to pay them a bunch more money. Stars gets the same thing and everybody else gets half as much. Another case of there you go.